When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. Because, see, Chris Pine played James T. Kirk in Star Trek, and that's how William Shatner played it, because we're a freaking nerd. Wish released this past weekend in 2023 and is directed by Chris Buck and Fawn Verasunthorn, who is also behind such films like Tarzan, Surf's Up, Frozen, and Frozen 2. And this film is starring the voices of Ariana DeBose, Chris Pine, Alan Tudyk, Angelique Cabral, Victor Garber, Natasha Rothwell, Jennifer Kumiyama, Harvey Gillen, Evan Peters, Rami Youssef, and John Rudnitsky. A long time ago there stood the kingdom of Rojas, where the king and queen oversee their subjects, and the king is a magical sorcerer who harnesses people's wishes and makes them forget them so that they live a nice, mundane life there in the kingdom. Well, once the young Asha realizes what the king is doing and that he has no intention of ever granting these people's wishes, she wishes upon a star that everyone's wish would eventually come true, and the star literally responds to her. So now the king is feeling threatened by the new form of magic and will do anything to hinder Asha and this new star so that he can continue ruling over the kingdom. And fair warning, I am going to speak slight spoilers. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but there are certain story aspects of this movie that really bugged me or were never really resolved, and I'm not completely buying into it because I feel that there are certain characters in here that deserved a redemption that never got it. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't seen this thing, go ahead and pause it, go to the theaters and watch it, because I definitely recommend you check it out. This is a nice, solid, nice film. Nice is the word to use with this thing. I will say, going into this film, I had no anticipation or expectations of what this film is. These Disney animated films have been around my entire life, and if I look back on it, a lot of them are pretty cookie cutter-ish. We have the same type of storyline, especially with the Disney princess films. And as this film got going, I was thinking, oh, this is Encanto. This girl has like power or influence in the city, and everyone loves and respects her, and she's there to fight for the people. I'm feeling like I've seen this one before multiple times. But then you bring in the dashing Chris Pine to lend his voice to the king, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Chris Pine is a very fine man, so if he's going to be showing up in a movie, I will be extremely happy. And not to mention that the animation for the king, like, he is handsome. Like, he's fine. The costuming, the silver fox, the peppering of his hair, this guy looks good. And the animation style, again, like all Disney films, is top tier. The animation here looks beautiful, it looks great, and we have a great voice cast. Ariana DeBose, who recently played Anita in the remake of West Side Story, I think she is great here. Alan Tudyk, who is like the go-to voice person for Disney now and Star Wars, he is here as the little baby goat. Basically, it's the same voice as he's doing in Clayface in the Harley Quinn animated series. It's the exact same thing. He even has the same cadences as Clayface does! Doesn't mean it's not funny and it's not great, it's just, it's rinse and repeat for me for Alan Tudyk. And we also have great music in here as well. Some of the best music that I've heard from Disney in the last decade at least. A lot of it does feel like it's there because it's supposed to be. Like, this is the formula of a Disney princess, Disney animated feature. Which is kind of my main gripe with this thing. It's very formulaic. We're focusing on Asha and how she sees an injustice being done with all these people giving up their main wish. Like, the one big wish that they have, they give it to the king, they give it to the sorcerer, and he holds on to it. But then when he takes it, the person completely forgets what their wish is, but they know that they had one. So eventually they're thinking that the king is going to fulfill that wish, even though the king is not all that powerful. I believe we only see him grant one, maybe two wishes in this entire film, and I'm thinking that this guy doesn't have the power to do everything. Maybe something is taken out of him when he grants a wish to where he can't do everyone's. But no, it turns out that he's just a giant dick, and he could actually do all of them. He just decides not to because some of them are so vague that could potentially lead to the downfall of the kingdom. Which is a frickin' stretch for me. The reason why I warned about spoilers for this film is really with the king's character. this character had a great little, like, tease of his backstory. He was talking about how something terrible happened in his past. We really don't know what happened, but we see representation. There is a burned rug that he hangs on the wall in his study, and you could tell, like, oh, it's someone close to him, whether it was his parents or someone that he loved previously. Maybe he had a kid previously, and these bad people came in and obliterated his family, obliterated his town. That's why he goes out and seeks the knowledge of this magic so that he can create this kingdom, so that he can bring in all these other people to keep them safe. And I'm thinking, okay, we're getting a layered character here. We're getting a layered backstory, and maybe eventually he's going to find that love again and then find that trust inside of himself, and he's going to live happily ever after with his wife. But that's not what happens in the movie at all. He opens up this book, this dark magic book. How do we know that's dark magic? I have absolutely no idea. They tell us that it is. Where did this book come from? Again, no idea. They didn't even tell us where that happened. It's just this book behind glass. And he opens it up, and it's evil, because evil things and evil reasons. And then he starts reading from it and performing spells with it. He's taking all of these wishes and he's harnessing their power for himself, which is pretty terrible, because when he does that, the person that wish belonged to feels this over sense of depression and grief and sadness. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy is losing his way, like all villains or antagonists in films do. They start off well, they're the hero of their own story, and then they take it too far to where they're hurting other people, and then we're going to make it to a point where you're going to see the error of their ways, and then they're going to be redeemed. There is no redemption for this character. Apparently there was a line in here that was written in this forbidden book that if you perform just one spell from the book, your soul is eternally damned for all time, and you're just evil going forward. So he's doing all these evil things. The queen is seeing this, and as far as I know, they have a loving relationship, like an open, loving relationship. There was no hatred towards each other at all. But then he starts doing from the book, and she doesn't like that, so she goes to help Asha and her friends rebel against the king, and then she's like, yeah, he's not my husband anymore. Like, they defeat him, they overthrow him, he's in this mirror, they put him in the dungeon, and then she's like, yeah, I'm queen now. Okay, I did have a husband who I absolutely loved, but that doesn't affect me emotionally. I'm totally okay right now. That's just not beautiful story writing at all. We have this great guy who turned evil, and then just no going back for him. Sorry. I was so disappointed in that. I always think that these Disney animated features are mainly directed towards children. I'm pretty sure they still are. And if I had kids and I was teaching them moral lessons, I would teach them that everyone has a sense of good inside of them. And if it seems like they're doing bad things, they could always be redeemed. They can always come back to the light. If you're paying attention to the message of this movie, that is not the case. Once you go bad, you never go back. Now, in the other story elements, I would assume that this is like the origin of Disney, basically. The whole concept of when you wish upon a star, the theme that is played at the beginning of every single Disney film when the castle comes up and you see all the fireworks going over top of it. This movie starts that. We have this star character that comes down who's absolutely adorable, doesn't say a word, has great facial expressions. I kind of wanted them to speak, though. I wanted, because it reminded me a lot of the Super Mario Bros. Movie with the little star character, or was it a flame? I don't know. It was some adorable little thing in the dungeon who was talking about all of like the most disparaged things you could think of. This star character made me think of that, and I wanted something coming from him, but the star never talks. But we also have hints of Peter Pan. We also have hints of the Seven Dwarfs for Snow White. We have talking bears and horses with personalities. And hell, even Chris Pine in the mirror, putting him in the dungeon, I feel like that's a little preview to Snow White and the mirror, mirror on the wall. It's clever because during this, I was thinking, what if there was like an origin story, or maybe like what Marvel does and they have all of their separate things and that all leads to like an Avengers team-up movie. Why don't we have like all of these Disney princesses and Disney films kind of leading up towards some big Kingdom Hearts movie or something? I feel like the story in this movie was the big bang for all of these Disney characters. And it all started here a very, very long time ago. There are some very good things about Wish, and this is a solid time. If you have kids, I would definitely recommend checking this out. There's great music, there's great vocal performances. It's just the story in the third act and the messages of this film that really bothered me, because there was really no redemption. We kind of just went, I felt like we were building towards some type of redeeming qualities for these characters, and then nothing. If you do bad things, you're just bad, and that's it. And I don't like that. So if you're a parent, know that going in. But until then, I'm gonna give Wish 3 out of 5 Blu-rays.
Not exactly what I had in mind, but not bad.
So guys, if you've seen Wish, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you all the next time I release next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.